this is the problem with the Democrats. They have a lot of bad things going on in their heads. They've become very, they've lost their confidence, number one, and they've become somewhat deranged.
Somewhat. That's President Trump talking about the Democrat Party. They become somewhat deranged. I'm going to have to take issue with President Trump. I don't think he needed to say somewhat right there. I think that didn't need to be modified. Bomb, 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 bomb. And a very happy Thursday to you. Welcome back once again. We remain at 888-630-9625. Today is Thursday. Sunday is the 1-year anniversary of a Democrat trying to assassinate Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, at the rally there, when a Democrat fired 8 rounds at President Trump using a combat-style rifle, putting one round through President Trump's ear, barely missing the assassination, murdering one man, a fireman, wounding 2 others, and then a U.S. Secret Service counter-sniper took out crooks with 1 round. Very economical, and that the anniversary, that's been less than 1 year. And boy, that story just went away too, didn't it? The most insidious power the media has is the power to ignore, and they ignore a lot, don't they? When it comes to the Democrat Party, all the terrorist attacks of the Democrat Party, the deranged, gender dysphoric mob of 12 that attacked ICE agents at an ICE detention facility in Texas just a week ago. Another suicidal Democrat attacking law enforcement, also in Texas, had to be gunned down as he showed up trying to gun down all kinds of law enforcement. There were 2 law enforcement officers shot, one in each one of those episodes. And the Democrat Party really ought to have a reputation that, thanks to the New York Times and CNN, they don't have the reputation that they've earned, the reputation that they deserve. They're very, very unwell. The Democrat Party, deranged. That's a fact, Jack. Yes, it is. There's a lot going on today, a great many things going on. And again, the anniversary this weekend of one of the assassination attempts. And in fact, there is another assassination attempt, in West Palm Beach, Florida, where the creepy Democrat crawling along the hedge line next to one of President Trump's golf courses that he built because, he's a very, very successful and productive man. All kinds of stuff going on with that. And that lunatic, he is due in court again, and he's calling for new counsel. He has 2 public defenders that are defending him, and he's calling for new counsel now because he doesn't like the lawyers that have been assigned to him, the would-be assassin, because Democrats, just extraordinary stuff. Yes, sir. A man accused of Trump assassination attempt in Palm Beach County seeks to remove defense attorneys from case. Why is he still alive? That's the thing. A man awaiting trial on federal charges, not to be confused with Thomas Crooks, who was shot and killed by the Secret Service after he shot President Trump less than 1 year ago. A man awaiting trial on federal charges of attempting to assassinate Donald Trump last year at his golf course near West Palm Beach, Florida, is seeking to get rid of his court-appointed federal public defenders. The hearing for Ryan Ruth, run-of-the-mill Democrat, shouldn't be allowed to own firearms. His motion regarding the proposed termination of his appointed counsel is scheduled for Thursday, that's today, in Fort Pierce, Florida, according to court records. The motion requesting the hearing didn't say why Ruth, who's 59 years old, no longer wishes to be represented by Christy Militello and Renee Michelle Sivola. Gosh, they must have hurt feelings about that. The attorneys didn't immediately respond to an email seeking comment. I'm sure that's true. This is from the local station Fox 29 WFLX in Florida. Isn't it amazing? So the Democrats, it's what they do. They shoot ICE agents. They shoot presidents. They wage war. Their mayors are, get the mayor, Ras Baraka, of assaulting federal officers, Newark, New Jersey, assaulting federal officers that are protecting a facility where illegal alien gang members are being held because they want to break out the illegal alien gang members. That's your Democrat Party. Now, I've got to say, wackadoodle bunch that they are, the Democrat Party. They're violently, criminally insane. And this is all, this is kind of normal now. The news media treats this like this is everyday stuff. You know, we played for you the audio, was it yesterday or day before yesterday, of the shootout on a front porch after midnight last Sunday. It was really like 1-something a.m. on Monday morning. And Democrats on a front porch in Philadelphia, they decided to start shooting everybody because that's what Democrats do. And we had 3 killed, 9 shot. Isn't that right? 3 killed, 9 shot. I think that's right. And 100 and some odd shots fired and 6 gunmen. And that's perfectly normal in Democrat Party America. In Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Democrat-run cities, these people, can I just say, these people. There they are, the Democrats. They're out and about. They're saying hello. Yeah, 3 killed, 9 shot. Was 130 shots fired, 6 gunmen. Late Sunday night, just hanging out on the porch. That's no problem. Why would that be an issue? Extraordinary times we're in. And police have determined that they're all Democrats. Every one of them a Democrat. The Washington Post today, they've got a headline. They've got a story written by a clown. And when I say a clown, I mean he's a guy who wears a big red rubber nose and a bow tie. And the Washington Post story, I'm a clown. Donald Trump is not one of us. It's honestly, it's the uncivil war that the Democrat Party has inflicted upon us. Real clowns bring joy to the world, not chaos to Washington. I remember John Wayne Gacy was a clown, the mass murderer of little boys, the kidnapping, rapist, mass murder of little boys. He was an active Democrat, too.
I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you?
And the Washington Post has a big story attacking Donald Trump. And the guy who's the head of the clown union, he wrote the story. And, I got an idea. Let's take all the guns away from Democrats. We'd be Sweden overnight. Our murder rate in the United States would be like Sweden. Just amazing stuff. These people. Now, with that said, a lot of stuff to talk about. I want to go to this Dean Phillips guy. Does anybody even remember Dean Phillips? Probably, for the most part, no. Dean Phillips is a Democrat. He was a Democrat member of the House of Representatives. He then actually ran for president, kind of, as a Democrat against Joe Biden. And then the Democrat Party shunned him because, you can't be having that. That'd be like democracy. And, the Democrat Party is anti-democratic. They are the death of democracy in the United States and beyond. Amazing stuff. But Dean Phillips he decided to post a video about Zohran Mamdani, the Democrat who won the Democratic nomination, the Democratic primary in New York City to become the mayor of America's most populous city and maybe the most important city in the world, quite possibly, and certainly the epicenter of capitalism on earth. And this guy, Dean Phillips, who's not a complete idiot, he, like most Democrats, elected and unelected, voters but Dean Phillips was asked about Zohran Mamdani and his rise. He was on CNN. I apologize. He was on CNN, Dean Phillips, and they asked him, what about Zohran Mamdani, the Democrat that won the primary among Democrats in New York City to become the mayor of America's most populous city?
Is there room for you and Mamdani in the Democratic Party?
You know, I think it's a fine question. I think it's one that many Republicans have been asking about, whether there's room for traditional conservatives in a party now led by MAGA Republicans like Donald Trump. The answer ultimately, I think, is no. You know, we do share many of the same values. In fact, most Americans share a lot of the same values. But as a political party, yes, you want diversity. You want some differences of opinion, perspective, life story, politics, and experience. But when you have socialists in the Democratic Party, I don't know how anybody could argue that that would be beneficial for the party or for the country.
Huh. Wow. How would it be beneficial for the party or the country? And he still wants the party to win. Isn't that amazing? Just extraordinary. Dean Phillips, he's got no place in the Democrat Party. There's no place for him because he's not completely irrational yet. And the socialists, remember Vladimir Lenin's line, that socialism is simply a means to communism. And the Seton-Motley line, the difference between socialism and communism is 5 years. Socialism to communism, 5 years. And the purpose of socialism is communism. It's to get to communism. And the Democrat Party, and communism is slavery. And the Democrat Party is the party of slavery and the bullwhip and plantations and the Confederate States of America.
Liberals amuse me. I am a socialist. I live to the extreme left. The extreme left of you mere liberals, okay?
Lawrence O'Donnell on MSDNC, $1 million anchor in the employ of NBC fake news. A disgrace to what was once a proud journalistic tradition in the United States of America, but no more. The Democrat Party is no longer an American party, and they're violent and they're armed and they're psychotic and they have suicide attackers and self-immolators and they shoot and kill CEOs on the sidewalks of New York. They shot President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania, nearly 1 year ago, but not quite 1 year ago. Tried to shoot him again in a golf course in Florida. The Democrat Party, they're not your friends. They're not good neighbors. Isn't that amazing? Speaking of Zohran Mamdani, an interesting video emerged yesterday or night before last of a woman named Hadika Arzu. Hadika Arzu. And she, being a close confidant of the communist, genocidal, anti-Semite, much like you got to keep in mind that the Adolf Hitler's party was the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany, right? And these guys, they're keeping the tradition alive. They really, really are. And also they keep alive like their boy. Looks like I'm going to have to pause on this soundbite. Keeping all the traditions alive of a lie told once remains a lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. That's certainly a centerpiece of the Democrat Party's political worldview today. And, boy, the Democrat Party, should they be disbanded? Should anybody identifying as a Democrat be treated as a reasonable adult at this point in the United States of America? How many people do you have to shoot? How many mass shootings? How many terrorist attacks? How many suicide attacks? How many political assassinations from CEOs and beyond? Boy, oh boy. Yeah, but Zohran Mamdani had an intern, and she is really something. Wait till you hear the audio that I have from her attacking Muslim police officers out on the street. I'll get to that. You know, it might be easy to brush off that tight feeling in your chest, maybe a flutter in your heart, a shortness of breath. No big deal, right? Could be nothing. But what if it's not? Now, I'm not somebody that runs to the doctor every time, my eyelid flaps around, but I do care about staying ahead of my health, and that's a good idea, especially heart health. Cardia Mobile. They sent me their Cardia Mobile 6L. It's a beautiful device. And they asked for my honest opinion. And let me tell you, this little device is very, very impressive. It's an amazing device. It's about the size of a Band-Aid, and it's the most advanced personal EKG that you can buy. The FDA cleared that to detect atrial fibrillation, AFib, one of the leading causes of stroke. And it's more accurate than those single lead wearables, and it costs a lot less, just a fraction of what a smartwatch costs. Can a smartwatch save your life? Whether you're at home or traveling or going to work or in between doctor visits, it gives you peace of mind, and it might even save your life. Right now, for a limited time, my listeners, that's you, get 10% off. It's already a bargain. Just go to Kardia.com, that's Kardia.com, or go to Amazon and use the code 106L-PLANT. 106L-PLANT, my last name, P-L-A-N-T. So that's the number 10, then 6L-P-L-A-N-T. That's Kardia Mobile 6L, sponsored by AliveCor. Yeah, wait till you hear this Mamdani woman. She sums up the Democratic Party pretty well. They're racist, they're foreigners, they hate American, they're un-American, and they're Democrats.
Did Luigi do the right thing?
I think he did what needed to be done.
Should every healthcare CEO be unalive?
All of the corrupt ones, yes.
Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at WashingtonTimes.com/Chris. Now, Hadika Arzu, that's her name, Hadika Arzu, was an intern for the radical extremist, genocidal, racist Democrat winner of the New York City Democratic primary. In a resurfaced video, a former intern for Democratic mayoral nominee Zohran Mamdani is seen confronting and criticizing, that's generous, a Muslim police officer at a pro-Palestinian protest, harshly questioning his decision to serve in law enforcement. And the guy looks genuinely shamed. Here is the intern for the Democrat, Hadika Arzu.
Leave the badges of the pigs!
Leave the badges of the pigs!
So to the Rahmans and the Mohammeds!
There's a Muslim New York City police officer standing in front of her.
To the Alis and the Abdullahs!
And she's shaming him.
To the Rafids!
To the Rafids!
To the pigs!
To the pigs!
Who can call themselves by the name of Islam?
Who can call themselves?
And this Muslim cop, New York City cop, is looking like his mother is dressing him down.
Put some respect on that name!
Put some respect on that name!
Put some respect on that name!
Put some respect on
This is today's Democrat Party. I got to tell you, it's they're going to be attacking the Turkish troop train soon. This is we're going to need Lawrence of Arabia to come in here. Yeah, she's a student in New York, of course. Hadika Arzu Malik, intern. All right, we have returned, and there are no communist, racist, genocidal anti-Semites here. That means no Democrats. The Democrat Party really has gone around the bend. Again, how many CEOs, how many politicians, how many federal law enforcement officers have to be shot by Democrats, sometimes by lone gunmen, often suicidal lone gunmen attacking, knowing or hoping that they'll be killed in the process. We've got, there was this horrible murder that Democrats tried for a minute to pin on Republicans, a double homicide, a triple homicide, actually, in Minnesota, when a Democrat by the name of Vance Bolter murdered, and he's in custody now, murdered two elected officials in Minnesota in their front doorways in their homes. And Melissa, a state representative in Minnesota, Melissa Hortman, and her husband Mark were shot and killed in their front door. And then a senator, a Democrat, And then a senator, John Hoffman, and his wife Yvette were shot multiple times and amazingly survived. And Vance Bolter, it turns out this guy, he's not, he's a political assassin. And it turns out that Governor Walz, who ran for vice president with Kamala Harris and is still the governor of Minnesota and shouldn't be, Governor Walz, he appointed this guy, Vance Bolter, to an advisory board. He's a friend of the family. And he's out there shooting and killing a Democrat state senator and a Democrat state representative and shooting and injuring the husband and wife of the two elected Democrats. The 57-year-old Vance Bolter, he's in jail now, as you might imagine, being charged with shooting and killing two state rep and a state senator, and the state rep's husband, the state senator's wife, and he's a Democrat, shooting Democrats. These two Democrats that he shot had just betrayed the Democrat Party by voting against giving free stuff to illegal aliens. And then they were gunned down in their front doors and killed in their homes. One of them was killed and the other wounded, and the spouses, one killed, one wounded. And it turns out that Vance Bolter's wife also, just amazing stuff. She was arrested as well. She had passports and cash in the car. She was pulled over by the police. An amazing story. The Democrat Party is really unwell. I mean, if you're a Democrat out there and you're proud to be a Democrat, at this point, I can only think there's something wrong with your brain. You can say, well, I don't vote Republican and I don't like Trump. But you say, oh, I'm a Democrat and I'm proud. Then I expect you to be like an armed lunatic any day now. Amazing stuff. And they're out there with these Islamists and the global jihadists, the global intifada, honestly, the riots at Ivy League universities against Jews. What country is this? What century is this? Well, it's the Democrat Party today, isn't it? Yes, it is. Amazing stuff. All right, let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's change the subject altogether, I think. Let's go to Chris, calling from Marshall, Virginia. Chris, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good afternoon, sir. It's always an honor calling from the front line of the heartland. A question for you. I don't know if anybody's posed this before, but what do you think about President Trump giving a preemptive, imposing a pardon upon Dr. Kevin O'Connor so that he would be compelled to answer questions and not plead the Fifth? I understand that executive privilege has been removed. If they did that, the only thing he'd be able to fall back on is doctor-client privilege. And how would they resolve that?
Well, they'd find some weaselly explanation for that. And yeah, they can't wait to not have. And he showed up on Capitol Hill today, although he first refused to show up, and then he decided if he was going to be subpoenaed, then he might as well show up. And his crafty Democrat lawyers have said, well, you can plead the Fifth because you don't have to incriminate yourself. Now, I got to say, Chris, what that implies is that telling the truth telling the truth would cause so much trouble that he'd have to lie, and then he'd be committing perjury, right, on Capitol Hill under oath, which usually leads to no consequences at all, like General James Clapper, the DNI, Democrat DNI, who lied repeatedly under oath about spying on all of us, which they do, and he lied under oath and without consequence. But Dr. Kevin O'Connor, who was the White House doctor for Joe Biden, and what happened to, let me ask you this, Chris, what happened to Joe Biden's stage 4 prostate cancer?
I'm wondering if anybody's done a wellness check on the Vegadent auto pen. I wonder what Hunter's paintings are selling for right now. It seems he's satisfied his artistic urges, and he's said all he needs to say artistically, and he doesn't have anything else to blow on a piece of parchment, does he?
That is a good point. It honestly is. Yeah, not only is he not selling his art anymore, he's not making art anymore. Because now, why do you think that is, Chris? Why did Hunter Biden have a very successful art career for a matter of months, where we're being told his artworks, and you're right, he would spit paint through a straw He does everything through a straw. Everything he does is through a straw. And he would spit different colors of paint through a straw onto various surfaces. And then we're being told by the New York Times that these pieces are so brilliant that they will sell for $500,000 each. Now, why would he stop being such a successful artist, Chris?
I think maybe his muse has been satisfied. He needs to have some new motivation, perhaps.
Isn't that amazing? And where are those paintings now? And honestly, there was literally a Pablo Picasso piece of art was found in an attic. I think it was Maine. It was in the Northeast. I think it was Maine. An old woman had this piece of art in her attic, brought it down, put it on the market, and it sold, I think, for $145,000. This an actual Picasso. And then the New York Times was applauding Hunter Biden's spit paint through a straw art, I'm making quotation marks with my fingers, for $500,000 a piece. And we as Americans were supposed to, and every Democrat did, just gobble that up and say, wow, he's a really talented artist. He's never been an artist before. But now that his whorehouse of a family is desperate for millions of dollars that they're getting from Ukraine and Russia and China, and now he's the world's greatest artist, the world's most successful artist. And all of that just fell by the wayside. Isn't that amazing? Now, but you started with, Chris, you veered off to some great stuff that I couldn't just ignore. Great stuff. But Dr. Kevin O'Connor, Joe Biden's White House doctor, who showed up on Capitol Hill yesterday reluctantly and then pleaded the Fifth Amendment, which is the right to not incriminate yourself. So how would he possibly incriminate himself? And again, there's the doctor-patient relationship and confidentiality. That's in one bucket over here. And where Joe Biden's, Hunter Biden's money is, this bucket over here. And it's got nothing to do with, But then the Fifth Amendment, how could he possibly incriminate himself by talking about being the White House doctor and President Biden's health? And honestly, we learned quite some time ago now, but not until after he had lost the presidential election, wasn't it, that he has stage 4 prostate cancer. And that story has just gone up in a puff of smoke, too, hasn't it?
I'm wondering what beach in Delaware the Vegetant is basking on to this day. I sincerely, out of the goodness of my heart, to the very heart of my bottom, I pray that the Vegetant survives until 120.
Yeah.
I want him to live to be 120 years old. I want him to set the global record for being the longest survivor of butt cancer.
I got to tell you, amazing stuff. And listen, Chris, I've got some audio that I want to play from yesterday, now that we're on the topic. But this is an extraordinary story that the president's doctor, who was called up to Capitol Hill to testify before the Republicans, because somebody said, well, wait a minute, we all saw Joe Biden's mental decline, his intellectual decline. We saw that slipping away from him. And then we learned only after the fact that, the New York Times expert in cancer progression surprised by Joe Biden's late-stage cancer diagnosis. And the doctor didn't notice stage 4 cancer, prostate cancer in the President of the United States. You should have his law degree pulled from him. The guy shouldn't be practicing medicine. Vast majority of people who are identified as having prostate cancer have had it identified at a much earlier stage than this, said Herbert Levine, who studies cancer progression. And that was an amazing story. Now, that was in May 19th of 2025. That's this year, long after the presidential election, after the inauguration for a second time of Donald Trump as president. They covered this up, and then the president's doctor, who's on the public dole, he's being paid by the taxpayers, and he's refusing to testify in Capitol Hill. And he says, okay, I'll show up, just like Hunter Biden refused to testify on Capitol Hill and all this great stuff. Amazing. And Dr. Kevin O'Connor then went to Capitol Hill yesterday to testify, and he's under oath. And he said, well, I don't want to incriminate myself. How could you possibly incriminate yourself? I don't understand. Well, it's because you're under oath and you plan to lie. That's the only reason. You're guilty as hell of something, and or you're planning on lying about everything that they ask you. Dr. Kevin O'Connor, a Democrat who apparently didn't detect the stage 4 prostate cancer in the President of the United States. You're fired, right? Amazing stuff. Dr. Kevin O'Connor yesterday on Capitol Hill.
Were you ever told to lie about the president's health?
I must respectfully decline to answer based upon the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Did you ever believe the president was unfit to execute his duties as president?
I must respectfully decline to answer based on the physician-patient privilege and in reliance on my right under the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution.
Wow, isn't that fascinating that he would incriminate himself if he told the truth? That's unexpected. He's a physician. He's the former White House doctor for the President of the United States, and he actually waived executive privilege, as Chris just mentioned. White House waives executive privilege of Biden Dr. Kevin O'Connor in cover-up probe. Former physician set to testify about alleged cover-up of Biden's mental decline during presidency. Now, this is the yesterday's story, and just amazing stuff before he actually testified. And President Donald Trump's White House decided to waive executive privilege for a key member of former President Joe Biden's inner circle. Fox News reported, and this is day before yesterday now, former White House physician Kevin O'Connor set to testify this week. The House Oversight Committee and the chairman there, James Comer, is investigating allegations that Biden aides covered up Joe Biden's mental decline and his physical decline while he was president, right? And then when he finally makes it up to Capitol Hill to testify, what does he do? And he threw in a little patient-client confidentiality there as well, but very peculiar to select the Fifth Amendment, the right to not incriminate yourself. How would that be a problem for you? The chairman, James Comer, Congressman James Comer.
This is unprecedented, and I think that this adds more fuel to the fire, that there was a cover-up. I believe that this adds legitimacy to the Tapper book and the other books that are in the works that are about to come out that shows there was a lot of suspicious activity taking place in the White House with respect to the president's health.
Yeah, Tapper, once it didn't matter anymore. So, well, now we can say it out loud. The lie has won, and James Comer.
This is very serious, and this was an opportunity for Dr. O'Connor to defend his reputation, to defend his work.
His reputation and his work. His name's Kevin O'Connor. He's an Irish guy. Maybe he's a drunk. Could it be? Might be the. I don't want to stereotype, but he could be a drunk. Named Kevin O'Connor. Congressman Comer.
There was nothing asked in the beginning that would pertain to doctor-patient relationship. This was a question, were you ever told to falsify medical documents for the President of the United States? And he pled the Fifth. And then we asked the question, did you ever doubt his mental capacity to fulfill the duties of the presidency? And again, he pled the Fifth. The only thing he answered was his name.
That means he's guilty as hell, that he's a crook, that even their doctors are crooked. A government doctor, a career government doctor, and he's a lying Sacagawea. Lying Sacagawea. You know that this country was built on hard work and on grit. Whether you stand long hours every day, you run around chasing the kids, or for work all day every day, you're just doing your part to keep the world turning. You shouldn't have to deal with fatigue and foot pain and ankle pain, and that is where G-Defy shoes come in. Built with patented VersaShock technology. No other shoe has VersaShock technology. The FTC has authorized G-Defy to tell you that these shoes help to relieve minor occasional pain associated with walking and running and prolonged periods of standing. G-Defy shoes help to absorb harmful shock. They align your body. They improve your biomechanics. They return energy with every step that you take. My best girl and I, they sent us G-Defy shoes. We hike around the city. Your arches feel better when you're done hiking. Right now, you can get 50% off your order of $120 or more by texting Chris to the number 91888. Or you can go to Al Gore's Amazing Internet to gtefy.com. Use the code Chris there to save 50%. With GTefy's 60-day risk-free trial, you've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Message and data rates apply. Yeah, this doctor, Gavin O'Connor, maybe drinky drink. Maybe that could explain it. What do you hear what NBC News had to say about all this? Now, the Washington Examiner reporting today that Senator Mike Lee has suggested giving the doctor immunity. Therefore, he could not incriminate himself, and he couldn't plead the Fifth Amendment anymore. And that's pretty clever, and could be a good maneuver. And I mentioned NBC fake news and Kelly O'Donnell, who made a bad little joke. He made a house call, to the House of Representatives, the doctor did, where he hid behind the skirts of... NBC News fake reporter Kelly O'Donnell.
The 82-year-old former president is now being treated for an aggressive prostate cancer.
I'm feeling good.
Recent books allege episodes of mental decline while he was president, like not recalling the names of longtime aides.
And everybody knew it. I knew it. I predicted on July 11th of 2023 that he wouldn't even be the nominee come election day.
Democrat Jasmine Crockett defended Biden's mental fitness.
I did have an opportunity to interact with the president. I never had a concern.
Jasmine Crockett, is now the arbiter of the mental health of the President of the United States. She is deranged. She needs to have a brain scan.
It's kind of astounding to hear someone say, if you invoke the Fifth Amendment, that is only because you are guilty. We have a constitutional right that anyone who may be under fire can invoke.
Guilty, anyone who may be guilty. Jasmine Crockett is just a piece of work.
I think that he did what any good lawyer would advise him to do. The country is off the rails right now. People have concerns about the current occupant in the White House and whether or not he is mentally fit to serve in this moment.
Well, we have concerns that you guys are going to keep trying to shoot him. That's what we have concerns about. You've already tried twice, and you shot Steve Scalise, and you're killing CEOs and shooting ICE agents and law enforcement. The Democrat Party, again, need to be denied the right to own firearms.